Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of RV Business Capital Talk, sponsored by Excel. I'm Rick Kessler from RV Business. Joining me, as always, Sherman Goldenberg from RV Business. And joining the two of us today is another familiar face for the industry, and that's Frank Tamburrini. Frank is the general manager of IDS, one of the very leading providers of software solutions for RV dealers in North America. Frank, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I always enjoy our conversations with Sherman and yourself. And, thank you, Rick, for also contributing to our trend report this year.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you. Now, of course, most people know IDS for the dealer management software, DMS provider that you are. But Frank, how about before we get into your trends report for next year, maybe give us a little more description of what IDS is all about?
Sure. So we've been around for about 40 years. The original founder actually started the business by providing software solutions to RV manufacturers in the parts area, and it grew from there: accounting, inventory, sales, CRM, and most recently, over the last couple of years, we've been launching newer products that really target RECT challenge in the industry, where you can communicate better with your customers through automation and tools. We've really focused on visualizing data for dealers so they're not spending hours and hours crunching data, and they can actually do something with that data. We revamped our CRM products and other products that really help technicians become more efficient. So I think over the years, it's kind of evolved from just a traditional DMS to now more workflow solutions where dealers can improve their efficiency, make things quicker, and improve their staff, workday life, because we all know they're busy. There's not enough time in the day. So if you can save them a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, and you can repeat that, hundreds of times a day, you can actually make a difference in their life.
I'm curious too, and I know we usually ask you this question every time you're on, but early on, probably in your tenure, lot of mom and pop dealerships, and dealerships of any size, really, for that matter, probably weren't using the DMS that are available out there in the market. Are you seeing much greater adoption of that technology now?
We are. So I think it comes in waves. Some of our customers that have been using us for 20, 30 years are now coming to us and saying, "Yeah, I want to improve my operations. Let's now implement this. Let's upgrade that." And then from other dealers that aren't using our systems are coming to us and also wanting to tap into, the things that we have working. And we have a pretty close-knit group of dealers who are also willing to talk to other dealers and talk about how their experience has been. I think that's been very helpful for us and for the dealers at large.
Very good. Sherman?
Well, excuse me. Where as a corporation are you physically headquartered?
Sure. Our staff are all over North America, but our head office is in Wake Forest, North Carolina. And then we have offices kind of across the country.
Your company, just to get my arms around this, of roughly how many employees?
Yeah, so I think we have about 170 or so employees across North America.
Okay, Rick, take over.
Yeah. Before we talk, one more question before we get into the trends report, and that is, besides the RV industry, what other industries are you in?
Sure. So the other opportunity that came up, I think 30 years ago, is the marine dealers started noticing that, hey, the RV space has this solution that's working for them. Could it work for us? And they essentially adopted it. And over the course of these years, we probably have around 30% of our businesses in the marine space. And the other thing is some of our dealers actually sell both. So for them, it's kind of a double benefit because they can see their business all consolidated into one entity. When you've got multiple locations, that becomes very important.
And here's a tongue-in-cheek statement. As I look out my window and the snow is flying, and we talked off air, Frank, you said you're about 4 degrees below zero going on right now where you are in Toronto, and Sherman in Indiana, same thing. You're cold and snow. Frank, I'm guessing you probably want to go visit some of your Florida marine dealers here soon.
Yes, and I've noticed my team tends to all of a sudden be in tropical places during this time of the year. I'm not sure if there's any correlation. I might need to run some analytics on that.
Hey, good segue. Analytics. Let's talk about your trends report. By the way, that same trends report, we've got a story on that in our January, February issue of RV Business Magazine. So thank you for that. But what are some of those highlights that you saw in that trends report?
Sure, we can talk about that. First, I want to talk a little bit about, if you don't
Okay.
mind, even the why. You know, why is a software DMS company doing a trends report? And really, it was kind of an idea where we talked to so many partners, great partners, even like yourself. You know, we talked about the industry, we talked to dealers, we talked to OEMs. So the idea was, well, why don't we start putting all that information down into one place? Why don't we start polling dealers, because we have enough dealers that we can have significant insights out of it, and put that all together and just put it out there, and let's just see how it goes. And we did that, I think, 4 years ago, and we weren't sure what the reception was going to be, but people seem to love it and look forward to it, and it's kind of become a tradition for us to put it out every year. And I'm a big believer that, you know, sometimes it doesn't matter what the number is, it's more important whether you're going to do something about it. And now that we've done these trends report year over year, we can kind of see, well, a couple of years ago, parts shortages was a big issue for a lot of dealers. And now, you know, they're less focused on that because that problem has lessened. But now they're worried about other things. And one of the things, you know, the two things that came up as number one and number two that they're thinking about, worried about, is raising product costs
Oh,
as well as labor. So labor's become more expensive. Hiring and retaining staff continues to be more and more expensive. So those are the two things that they're focused on for this year. And that's where I think this is our opportunity now to provide not just IDS, but, you know, and everybody involved in the industry. Well, how can we help them with that? And the answer is the more is similar to the other years, is the more efficient they can get, the more manual tasks they don't have to do, the higher they can raise their customer satisfaction. That will help their staffing and not burning people out, and having the time to really train people. Because sometimes people can be amazing, but if you don't invest the time and effort in getting them trained properly, they're going to struggle. So we also did an analysis over the last little while. What little bit of insight can we help dealers? Like, what should they be aspiring to, especially in service? Because I think that's where, you know, there's a lot of challenges. And what we found is our most advanced dealers have one service advisor for every 4 techs. So one service advisor can successfully operate 4 technicians. Others are probably in the 1.5 to 2 range. Now, there's probably reasons for it, but I think that gives people something to aspire to. Okay, if other dealers can have one person running 4 techs, how do I get there?
mm-hmm.
And if you can do that, you know, you're essentially hiring less people to, as well as doing the same amount of service, which is a win for the business.
Sounds like the old adage of do more with less.
Exactly, exactly. And I think it becoming more efficient, I think it builds momentum. You know, if you every day you're going into work and you feel like something's wrong, eventually, you know, it becomes more challenging. But if you're running a well-oiled machine and people are happy, you know, I think you're the end user, like the buyer of that RV, the person who brings in that RV for service is going to notice.
Just curious, Frank. The retail sales, especially the new retail sales, have everybody knows has been a little bit down. Are you able to track the service and repair end of dealerships? Is that still pretty busy for everybody?
That's still pretty busy. And the good news on that side is the RECT has come down to more historical levels, around 34 days. So I think that's where it was when we originally started tracking it a few years back. I think people still want it to be better because 34 days still seems like a really long time. but at least it's movement.
Okay.
There has been an impact. And some dealers have more service that they can handle. So sometimes they have to turn people away. So if you really focus on improving the efficiency, you could take on more work, maybe more warranty work.
And
What,
go ahead.
just coming in from the 30,000 foot point of view, what are the other highlights that you really want people to hear about?
Yeah, I think the other big one is, and we've touched on this over the years, but it's become even more important, is customers' expectations, I think, have gone from a nice to have to almost a must have.
Yeah.
In the sense that they want faster response times, they want faster service, they want more on-demand service, and that's something that I think the industry as a whole is kind of tackling. And so if a customer expects you to update them every couple of days or every time something significant happens, it's important that you have a system in place that will prompt that user. If you're relying on sticky notes or memory, I would probably be the worst service advisor if I don't put it down. If you have a system that can kind of prompt you, or even better, do it for you, that eliminates the need for the advisor to constantly have to pick up the phone and call. The last thing you want to do is endless voicemail, back and forth, back and forth.
And that's part of your CRM then, right?
That's part of it. Yep. So part of it, you can set it up where, send an automatic message every couple days or when significant things happen throughout the life cycle. But a lot of it is just making sure, the staff members have a place that they can go to. That's one place to do their work. Here's everything that's happening today. Get your notifications out the door, and then focus on what else you have to do.
I'm reminded of a power breakfast a few years ago where we had, among others, Lauren Batis, General RV, up on stage, and we were talking about service and the need for it to improve for the customer experience. And one of the things he mentioned was how you can order a pizza and then on your phone track that it's being made, track that it's being cut, track that it's been put into the car, and then follow it on the map as it makes its way to your house. And he said, that's where we need to be. I was like, wow,
Right.
that would be impressive.
Right. And a lot of companies have really shown, Amazon, very similar. In some areas, you're going to get same day service, something
Yeah.
that's going to show up. So I think that's kind of changing. The demographic of the RV buyer, has probably changed. Even in the 8 years or so that we've been kind of doing this, I think one of the things that we noticed on the trends report was, I think historically the number one demographic was always retirees, but I think lately it's been more people with young families, followed secondary by more retirees. So you really got to focus on both demographics to do well going forward. But I would think the people who have young families are probably in that millennial Gen Z. They grew up with a phone and a bottle in one hand and a phone in the other. So they expect, instant notifications, all that thing. And we have time, and it'll get there.
What I'm looking at my notes here because like you, I can't rely on sticky notes. One of the other trends I wanted you to ask you about was unlocking hidden revenue streams. What's that about?
Sure. I think one of the ones that we've noticed is that some dealers are not tapping into is warranty. So obviously they're collecting money from warranty, but the question is, are they collecting as much as they should?
Okay.
And one of the things that happened over the last couple of years is we've hired people from the industry because we want to make sure that our solutions match the RV specific industry. And we hired a warranty manager, and he was telling us that he was collecting $250,000 a month in warranty, which blew people away when they heard that. And this person's done webinars. He's taught these sessions at some of our in-person user conferences, and he kind of laid out his way of doing it. And it wasn't all software related. A lot of it was his own tactics on how he would make sure he was putting in the right notes, making sure the pictures were correct, answering the questions, building a system so that when the manufacturer sends a question back, you have a system that you're going to respond back. And I think those are the areas where you're already collecting money, but the question is, are you collecting enough? So you can focus there. The other one that came up on the trends report that I think some dealers are doing, but a lot of them are still resistant, is rentals.
Mm.
We'll see if that's a trend that takes off in the RV space. Renting a car is one thing. Renting a motorhome probably much more complicated. But if it's one that's kind of stationary at a trailer, possibly it's more like Airbnb.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. One more thing here, because enhancing cybersecurity, that obviously is as important as ever, given
Yes,
the state of the world, let's say.
absolutely. I think over the last year or so, there's been some prominent industry incidents that have happened for the top companies like Microsoft and others. And so that's why it's very important to be extra vigilant with cybersecurity. The FTC compliance came in last June, which requires dealers to make
Mhm.
sure they're protecting the data. And it's not all technology. A lot of it is also making sure you're not writing credit cards down and leaving it on a desk. So, we encourage dealers to think of it holistically, not just your primary DMS. You've actually got to go through your entire dealership and try to find those areas where, you can get a pretty big fine if you're not covering it.
That's for sure. Sherman, do you mind? I've got one last question to ask, if that's okay.
No, you're on a roll. Go for it.
Okay. Last question, Frank, and I'm asking you, I guess, to spill the beans if you're able to, but what does IDS have in store for next year? Any little announcements or product introductions or enhancements you care to share?
Sure. I'll give you kind of an exclusive before the press release comes out, but we're definitely doing a lot more integrations with OEMs. So I think that'll help dealers, like we talked about, become more efficient. The first one that's probably going to be launched probably by the time this comes out is open recalls with Forest
Oh,
River. That'll allow a dealer to, when they're working with a customer, automatically kind of get notified to say there's open recalls on this particular unit. You need to do something about that. And then other ones that we're looking at doing. We're also working with some other partners where we want to integrate and make the customer experience, the dealer experience much more seamless. Instead of going to multiple different screens, they can do a lot of their work together. So if I had to coin, what's the theme for next year? For us, it's how do we help the dealer become more efficient, and not only by using the IDS solutions, but also leveraging partners and integrations that'll allow them to do that.
very good, very good. This is going to come out right the day before New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and all that. So the RV that you're in is perfect. The RV, right? It's a
That's
real
right.
background.
It's real.
Frank, I want to thank you again for your time. Always a pleasure, sir.
Thank you for having me, and have a great holiday. We'll talk
Thank,
soon.
very
Thank you.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.